there guys, Ken here, your thrifty apprentice, and welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to have a watercolor painting tutorial demo, and this video is brought to you in part by Miss Diane Zimmerman out in Houston, Texas, who is one of the wonderful moderators of a beginner watercolor group on Facebook, which I will link in the description below. If you have time, go check it out. I promise you will not regret it. She did gift the studio with the paints we'll be using today, which will be Kuritaki's Gansai Tambi 18 watercolor set. And do stay tuned. We will eventually have a review going up on this paint set. I did go ahead and swatch them out so that I would be able to see what colors I'm working with, the shades that they will possibly make, and the opacity of the paints. Again, we will be talking about that in an upcoming review. I also have a couple of brushes here, some flats, some rounds, a water brush, and I'm going to be using a disposable palette since the paints themselves come in a cardboard box with no mixing area. With that, on a side note, guys, I hope that you all are staying safe. There is a lot of craziness going on in the world, and I feel like art is a wonderful, wonderful mini distraction from the craziness and the chaos. So I hope that you guys grab whatever paints, whatever brushes, whatever paper. Even if you don't want to paint this flower, sketch out something that you want to paint yourself, and let's just go along on this journey in order to enjoy and try to continue to maintain some positivity and sanity in our lives. All right, guys, let's get started. So we're going to put in a background here. We're going to grab the lemon yellow and water it down. It was a bit too bright for me, so I'm going to blot that out with a tissue and use what's left in my brush in order to finish painting that background. Here I'm showing you swatches as well as the front of the packaging, which gives the color names. I'm mixing indigo and purple directly from the palette together, and then I'm going to go in and paint in a base color on top of all of the flowers. Now, full disclosure, guys, this is like my third time doing this voiceover, so I'm probably going to talk really fast because I realized that the video was moving a little faster than I thought the first two times I tried to do this. Now, as I said, I was basing in each flower before I got off on that little tidbit, and actually the color was a little bit too blue for me. So eventually you're going to see that I go back in with a glaze of the violet by itself in order to bring the shade a little bit closer to a purple color. And that'll come up in a moment. Now, you can see that I got some puddles here, so I'm just going to go in with a dry brush and wipe those puddles up because I didn't want any blooming in the composition at the end. Now here's where I was telling you I was going to be glazing over the original color in order to add a little bit more purple tone to it. And after I was happy with that, we're going to actually move on. Now next I'm going to be going in with different shades of green that are in the 18-piece set here, and I'm not going to have to do any color mixing with that. I'm just going to use those greens directly from the palette and paint in the stems of each one of these flowers. Now guys, the packaging tells you that this paint is a more like a gouache actually, and it works like a watercolor when it's watered down, and that was exactly the experience I had. They really remind me of the Reeves gouache I use on a regular basis. Well, maybe these have a bit more pigmentation, and yeah, no doubt they're a little bit easier to control, or should I say the colors are easier to predict than the Reeves are, but nonetheless, Reeves is a pretty good brand itself. Now here I'm just adding in some shadowing to each one of the stems, and then I'm going to go back in and add in some highlights. And tell you the truth, although I was happy with the way the paints were performing and working, by the time this composition is wrapping up, I'm going to grab some of my Arteza colored pencils to go ahead and add a bit more fullness and richness to the color and a little bit more life to the composition. This is the first painting that I decided to really try to push and make it look as realistic as I possibly could in my abilities at this point. Uh, the paper here that I'm painting on, I wanted to mention this as well. This is Master's Touch Hobby Lobby's brand of 140-pound watercolor paper. Now, it has the weirdest sizing in all creation on it. It's almost like a velvet on top of it. However, this lends to grabbing the pigment from colored pencils, watercolor pencils, markers, any of sort of your like paint or stick form of media, and it holds it and grabs it really well. So that's the reason I like using this paper, especially in like landscape compositions. So here you'll see I'm just adding in shadowing. I'm going to use a stippling. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I'm using a stippling technique here to add the shadowing in around the center of each flower, and then eventually I'm going to also do the same thing around the end of each petal. Now this is allowing me to add a lot of depth and shadow into each petal. Actually maybe a little bit too much, which was another reason I grabbed the Arteza colored pencils in just a moment. Now here you'll see I actually switched to a acrylic brush because it was like a number 0, and it allowed me to control the amount of water that I was using in that purple paint mixture ratio. Guys, really quickly, it is okay to use your acrylic brushes to watercolor, but it is not okay to use your watercolor brushes to do acrylic painting. You don't want that acrylic paint to mix up your soft brushes. So yeah, here I am just continuing to add in the shadow, or around each petal, and yeah, it gets pretty repetitive at this point. Gonna kind of be doing the same thing to each flower petal. Yeah, so hopefully you guys are doing this as well. You have grabbed your supplies and you are working hard on whatever you decided to draw. Um, and we're painting together. That's the reason I put these videos out, because I want you guys to try it or try something like it. Yeah, so we can paint together. So finishing up here, we're just gonna go ahead and finish adding in the darkness. Now, I got plenty of shadow from this, but I kind of killed my highlights. But it was starting to look more real to me as well. So that's when I really decided that the colored pencils were going to be a definite go. Now, after I finish up here, and you'll notice I am making sure to leave a little bit of area for highlight as I add the shadow. I am going to grab that green paint that I used in the stems, and I'm going to actually put in a few blurred blades of grass in the background, just because I wanted to feel the composition out a little more. I feel like those flowers needed a little bit something more in the background to really make them pop off the page. So that's the direction I'm heading in now. And I am going to put in a light, medium, and dark shade of green. And actually for my dark shade, I mixed in a little indigo with that darker green that I was using to actually add a little bit more depth in it. I feel like those shadow blades kind of really made the leaves pop out. So right after this, you're going to see me grab those color pencils, and there they are. And I'm going to use a few shades of purple and violet and lavender and greens and blues, just to add a little bit more depth to the composition, a little bit more life and realness. So you know what, guys, I've actually been thinking about doing videos and opening the channel up to more than just water soluble products. Maybe doing like colored pencil tutorials, alcohol markers, soft and oil pastels, water soluble pastels, just like a lot of different art products. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Is that something you guys would be interested in seeing? Oh, I really like the way this is turning out. But my shadows were really dark now. But those colored pencils just added so much richness to the color. And it kind of made the I don't know, the composition started to come to life to me. But the shadows were dark. So I don't know. After I thought I was done, but I wasn't done. So you're going to see me sign it. And then right after I sign it, you're going to see me grab my white Arteza pencil to go in and start adding some highlights to the composition because I wanted it to look like it was more than just contrast and darkness in it. But that Arteza pencil, although opaque, not as opaque as I really wanted it to be. So I'm going to use it for a minute, and it helped with the low tone highlights, or the mid tone highlights, should I say. But you're also going to see that right after that I switched to a Prismacolor white pencil in order to add all of my high tone highlights. Now, yeah, Prismacolor is very reliable with that white pencil. It is probably the most opaque colored pencil I have ever seen. And it never ever fails with helping to add life to a composition. Oh, yeah, I did grab some green pencils and go in and help darken and lighten those blades of grass as well. I think it really made the flowers pop. I was really happy with that. So I'm gonna splatter some paint. You know, I can't help it. And oh yeah, guess what? Colored pencils, the wax in them helps to protect the painting. So I was able to lift those splatters off of the flowers with absolutely no problems at all. And that's where I signed it and pulled off the backing paper, thinking, oh yeah, I'm done. But then nope, here comes highlighting. Had to highlight. Watch. Just watch how the flowers come to life. I mean, I like it. I like it a lot. I hope you guys too. You're going to see that Prismacolor break on me. They're good for that. But still, you can't beat the opaqueness that that white one has. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I would love for you guys to keep up with what's going on. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every single video, just keep painting, just keep painting, just keep painting.